Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Arant. I'm an independent educational consultant that specializes in Division III and Ivy and Patriot League athletic recruitment. As part of my consulting, I have begun facilitating a series of webinars related to the college search and athletic recruitment process. This is a very much a sports-centric session tonight. I have a series of coaches that are from schools all across the country to kind of guide us through their recruitment schedules and kind of how their recruitment process works from their perspective, as well as how best to engage from the recruitment side with those recruits and vice versa. So I'm joined by four coaches, so I will let them introduce themselves shortly. Martin, you want to kick things off?
Sure, Matt. Yeah, my name is Martin Beatty. I am the head coach of track and field at Middlebury College in Vermont, and I've been here 38 years.
All right, Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave Beccaria. I'm the head baseball coach and assistant athletic director at Haverford College, and I'm in my 25th year as the head coach at Haverford.
Okay. John.
I'm John Carlson. I'm the head men's and women's swimming and diving coach, as well as the head women's tennis coach at Gustavus Adolphus College, and I'm in my 36th year.
Okay. Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda Daniels. I'm the head women's lacrosse coach at Denison University, and less impressively, I guess, in my 12th year there.
So we have four very experienced coaches all across the country. So I guess kind of the best way to kick things off is, for the most part, your sports are during the spring semester. So right now you're kind of in that off season. So can you kind of guide us through what that schedule looks like from your perspective on recruitment in the off season versus in season in terms of traveling, just general engagement with recruits when they come to campus? What are those main differences between the on-campus or the off-season versus the in-season timelines?
I'll kick that off. I do most of my recruiting during the summer for a couple of reasons. I have more time in the summer. We're finishing up our track and field season. I also feel that families have more time to come up and visit the campus. I want them to see our campus, see how beautiful it is, see the school, get to know it. And so parents probably might have vacation time, students are not in school, so there's more time for them to do that. I probably should start by saying, I end up calling people, mailing people, trying to target the people who academically can fit Middlebury College and athletically, fit our program, and then try to encourage them to come up and visit. So it's all pretty much in the off season, and which is the summer. Then it kind of goes into the fall, and I try to get people to pretty much narrow down their choices by the time we get to mid fall.
Okay, great.
I need some more time to think. Somebody else go.
I'm happy to chime in. Things at our place are pretty cyclical. I can't move faster than our admission process. So really, as a baseball coach, the summer is about the only time when I can really get on the road and travel and attend a lot of different recruiting events and try to see as much baseball as possible. We have a 5-week fall season, and we're playing 40 games in 2 months, basically, in the spring. So not a whole lot of time to get on the road. So for us, we use the entire summer as an evaluation period, trying to gather a ton of academic information so that we can assess whether somebody may be a fit for the admission process at our school. The three main pieces of information that we typically need so that I can show to our admission liaison and execute a pre-read are the complete transcript with final grades from junior year, a list of senior year classes, and then our admission office actually also requires a resume, which is basically just a list of interests, activities, and leadership positions. At the same time, we're trying to assess who's going to be able to make the biggest impact and the most immediate impact on the baseball field for us. And hopefully along the way, we're having the opportunity to interact with a lot of student athletes, either on campus or in other forms, so that we can get a sense of the person behind the academic profile. And towards the end of the summer, beginning of the school year for us is really when we try to narrow things down, try to make sense of everything that we've seen all over the country and make sense of all the information that we've gathered. And the fall for us, when we start our fall season, is really an opportunity to bring a select group of recruits to campus and to try to have them, immerse themselves in the campus culture and have a little bit of the student athlete experience at our place.
I'll give it a shot. So I don't really have an off season because we have fall tennis, which overlaps with swimming for about 3 weeks in the fall, and then tennis and swimming overlap by a couple months in the spring. So uh, I just keep going. I just I think we're always trying to get kids to visit campus, right now, juniors for day visits and seniors for overnights. And just, we're very tuition driven school. And so, numbers matter here. So, we probably give more attention to C-level athletes than most places. Of course, I really focus on, the A's and the B's that we have on our list, but, yeah, no, I just think you just got to be the consistent element kind of takes away from, I have little small blocks of time during the year where I use to, spend, go on vacation or whatever, but they're pretty small. And because you want to make sure you can take advantage of, a level 2 tennis tournament. I came back from a tournament with my players, and then that Sunday I got a chance to go check out a pretty high level junior tournament that happened to be in the area. So I don't know, you just kind of, it's coaching and recruiting, right? I mean, hopefully my assistants can take care of scheduling and all the other stuff that needs to get done.
Yeah, for us, it's pretty consistent year in and year out. In the fall, there are kind of series of tournaments throughout November that we'll attend, and then kind of June and a bit of July. But really the fall is our main kind of live evaluation time of juniors typically. And then just kind of depending on each individual's timeline and everything will kind of determine how we move through that process. But as far as kind of the fall and off season times, that's just when the tournaments are anyway. When we're in season, we'll continue with phone calls and emails as well as on-campus visits as needed. But a lot of times we're generally done with our junior class kind of by the March, April timeframe. It kind of depends on the year a little bit. And I think the biggest takeaway just from even listening to everyone here who has spoken, that obviously every timeline is a little different. It's very dependent on the sport. It's even dependent on the coach and the school and their admissions process, and just making sure that recruits are asking those questions, I think is always helpful to know, just as much as I want to understand where that prospective student athlete, where they're at in their process, is important to me as well.
Great, thank you. So we kind of touched on a couple of things. I want to kind of delve a bit deeper. So I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, I was previously the athletics admission liaison at Franklin and Marshall College of Pennsylvania. And so the reason I want to ask this specific question is because I did the work kind of directly. So when we would have like prospect days, ID camps, clinics like that, we would oftentimes kind of double up, in which we would do it. Our office would give an information session. We kind of set up campus tours. It was kind of I guess, an extension of that liaison between the two departments. So I was wondering for you all, are there any specific things that you and admissions partner on specifically, in addition to just getting the pre-reads completed and kind of having that communication process? Are there specific, I guess, events that you kind of partner up with, or is it more about just getting the kids to campus and hopefully have already spoken with admissions prior to being on y'all's campus and visiting with you and the rest of the team?
I can go first on this one. We do partner pretty well with admission. Again, I think on a campus like ours, the number of people you have on the roster is power. I think I have more assistants just because I had the numbers first. And right currently we're at 98 swimmers and divers. One of the things that we do to kind of take the pressure off admission is all of our seniors, and we do elect one junior captain. Every senior is a captain, and then we elect one junior captain. They are all trained in how to give tours on campus. And so it's always our student athletes that are giving the tours. And the information session is the only thing that I really need from my admission office. And otherwise, we try to take care of as much as we can to alleviate the burden. And I actually think the student athletes do a good job of representing the college, probably better than admission or even myself. So.
We do at Middlebury work very, very closely with admissions also. I think it was Dave who mentioned pre-reads. That's something that's important to us. Getting the academic information, seeing if they are a match for Middlebury, see if they do have a chance of being, I shouldn't say a chance, a likelihood of being accepted. And it's good for the student to know that too, if they have a likelihood to be accepted or if it's not likely. And then if it's not likely, it's good for them to know that and to maybe focus their energies on other schools where they might have more of a chance. So that relationship, that three-way relationship, I'm like the person in the middle, dealing with the student, dealing with admissions, trying to find out as soon as possible if there's a possibility there is really, really crucial for the timeline, for me as well as for that student. I have a certain number of people who I can push for in admissions. I probably not every school might have that, but I do have a certain number. And it really, I try to make sure I fill that number by this time. Actually 2 weeks ago, I was done with my recruiting, which was wonderful. It's probably the earliest I've ever been done, but it was nice and I have a big number of sport. I have 120 in my program. So it was great to be done 2 weeks ago with men and women. And today was our first day of track practice. So it was great to just have that behind me when we're starting our first day of practice. And I can focus on my current team and not on a future team. But I do want to also mention quickly, I think it was Amanda mentioned, or someone mentioned ID camps. Track does not do that. It's usually the ball sports. I think maybe for us, because we come off of 2 seasons, winter and spring, we're ready to be done with our sport and we'd rather stay home for a while. So, and our sport is one in that we can look at a time, a distance, and know if that person can compete on the college level and for us or not. So I really don't have to deal with traveling and doing the ID camp thing. But we do have standards. We have recruiting standards that people have to hit to kind of be in our program. Some track programs do that. Not every track program does, but that's something that we've done. And it's kind of helped our numbers stay under control. And that might sound like I don't have numbers under control because they're so big, but believe me, we'd be a lot bigger if we didn't have something like those standards. So, yeah.
We used to partner a lot more with our admission office for different events throughout the course of the year. But I think more and more it's become sort of team-specific events. We used to do a departmental recruiting weekend and have a lot of formal programming and encourage and invite a lot of people from our admission office and the financial aid office to, help us talk to recruits and their families. We do less of that now. And again, it's done more in a team specific manner. But the reality at our place is we have one admission liaison who works with the athletic department for the 23 sports that we have. So I think we're pretty cognizant of the fact that, especially throughout the entire late spring, early summer, all the way into the early fall, the volume of pre-reads takes up so much time that
And I was that person
it.
at F&M. I was
Right.
a lone wolf on that. So I know
Right.
that exact feeling.
Yep. And so, that's a lot to ask, and it's a really crucial part of the job, and it's a crucial part of the process for us. So I think we really just try to make sure that we're encouraging the coaches to set up meetings, communicate, and really get what they need from a very fundamental standpoint with our admission liaison. But we've kind of scaled back, I think, a lot of the extras.
Great.
We have a prospect day very similar to what you were speaking about at the beginning when you posed the question. We just do that once in the fall, and so we'll include our admissions people with that. And so we'll do a tour, we'll do have the admissions info session, and they'll all be involved with that there, which is great. And then whenever we have recruits visiting, they'll go through the admissions office just in that way. And it's not just the one person, luckily, that has to do that part. So that involves kind of the whole crew. And then our early read process is pretty streamlined through there. But yeah, it's always nice to have kind of that partnership and that open communication with the admissions office.
Great, thank you. So Martin, you kind of mentioned like standards and times, right? So we have a unique kind of split in the panelists here, having times-based sports contrasted with team-based or more film kind of centric sports. So I was wondering if you kind of maybe walk me through what it means for you to evaluate talent through whether you have a times-based event or more of a team kind of film-based sport.
Did you want me to talk about
Yeah,
that?
sure. If you want to kick that off, just
Yeah,
kind of just
sure.
the
Yeah.
time specific sports like that.
Yeah, there was a certain point in my career when I felt like I needed to have just set in stone a certain standard that people have to hit to be in our program. And maybe I shouldn't say set in stone, and I can be somewhat flexible with that. If you're a high jumper and maybe you're a woman high jumper and you're only jumping 5 feet, but you're 6'4", maybe I'll relax that standard a little bit if there's some really good athletic ability there. But yeah, it really, it helps a ton. It helps kind of just really with the volume of recruiting and cutting down. I can, just let someone know, yeah, you can fit into our program. You could be competitive in our league. Or no, you can, and just it helps them, it helps me, and it helps kind of reduce my volume of people that I'm kind of targeting and going after. And again, it helps those people too, knowing ahead of time, okay, well, Middlebury is maybe not viable for me, so I could focus my energy looking at another place. So it's really worked well.
Are you drawing upon, I guess, the numbers from like the NESCAC conference meets, like regional? Is it kind of having that baseline? Okay, if you can place at our conference meet, we want to keep talking, so to speak.
Yeah,
is
that's
it
exactly
largely
it.
okay?
That's exactly it. Is if someone wants to, know what my standards are, they can look at our conference championship meet, the most recent one, and see where they can fit in with our conference. And if they can maybe have the possibility of scoring in our top 8, people who score in a meet, those type people that I'm looking at to have a possibility of scoring for us in the future in our conference championship meets. So yeah, that's really the ballpark of where the standards are.
And then how about, I think I've been looking at like cross country, like kind of like the whatever, like the distances. And sometimes for high school, it's different than college. So how do you go about like forecasting or kind of saying, okay, here's what they're running at a 6K, but here's what they would probably run at an 8K at the conference meet or the NCAAs. How do you kind of forecast that for both track and field? I don't know if swimming is the same way, where they have different distances in conjunction, like the dive heights, things like that. How do you figure that part out if those distances or heights aren't, I guess, equivalent?
Yeah, I'll let John answer in a second. For me in track, there are a few distances that we have in college that are not in high school. So I have to do some converting to see, steeplechase might be one. Some states have it in high school. Some of the throwing events, the implement might be at a different weight. There's 300 hurdles in some states, 400 hurdles in in college. So I do have to do some, but to get to your question about cross country, I wish I could answer that question. I'm the indoor and outdoor track and field head coach. My distance coaches in track and field are the cross country coaches. So they do have a good feel for, how to really estimate someone's growth. Maybe in their senior season of cross country that they're going to really look at. I probably shouldn't answer that question because I don't want to be way off base with that. Yeah.
But just the theme of forecasting, right? Kind of just seeing here's what they're doing in high school. This kind of makes sense. It's a natural progression as they age, they kind of grow in their body a bit more too.
Right.
I guess.
So John, do you have any kind of, I guess, version of that for swimming and diving?
Yeah, it's how we letter grade them.
Okay.
If you can finish top 3 in the conference, you have times that are top 3 in our conference. You are an A. Top 8 is B, and then top 16 to even get an weekly email from me. You need to be able to be top 16 because we score 16 places in swimming. And yeah, and I mean, there's other elements too. I do really like getting out. Again, we're we're more regionally based. I guess I got kids from Alaska and California, but we're regionally based, and I like seeing how the kids interact. Do they seem to enjoy competing? And they'll get a little plus by their B if they seem to be a good teammate, or just seem to be having a good time at the meet and enjoying the chance to compete. And actually dealing with performances that aren't so great, which happens, more often than not in swimming. You kind of have to rest a lot before you swim fast. And tennis especially is there's metrics out there that we use to kind of rate players, but once again, what matters to me is just watching how they treat their teammates. I do watch their feet and watch the power of their serve. And if it's a good motion and something that we can work with, they'll get a plus. Their A, B, or C is based on the metrics. There's a UTR rating, there's a WTN rating. And so we use that kind of stuff to help get us started. But, and we'll have Ds that we don't really recruit. We don't send any info. If they show up on campus, we treat them like kings and queens. But if we really like them from their visit, we'll change it to a C-V. So we know it's not a C ability, but it's a good kid that would enhance our program.
Okay, great. So I guess now kind of contrasting that with the team sports, the ball sports in terms of that, the film analysis going to the showcase is seeing kind of how does that work in terms of your overall approach to evaluating the athletic talent?
Yeah, I mean, that's so interesting because like stats, if we get sent that, I honestly don't pay too much attention to it. Like stats are, an interesting thing to kind of know, but it's so hard because the level of competition can vary so much. And so someone could have this incredible stat line, but it's against a much lesser team. So that just kind of isn't something that I think or put too much weight on. So it does come down to just film or live evaluations for us. And every coach is kind of going to be a little different with what they're looking at and what kind of stands out to them. And for me, it's just, we need to see a certain level of stick skills, which sounds really obvious, but I mean, similarly to track where you need to be hitting these certain times to be kind of fit into and be competitive within that program or that conference. Like the same thing is true there. Like you need to have a certain level of stick skills and things just to even, be comfortable on the field. And then, it's just little stuff like how they're handling pressure, applying pressure, just kind of their style of play. Does it seem like it's going to fit ours? And, and then the little things is their intangibles as far as like sportsmanship and how they react to mistakes and all those things that you can observe in some moments. Also, are certainly things that we're taking note of as we're watching and especially live. I think it's sometimes can be a little tougher. The film, you just never know if you're even going to find the kids sometimes on the film. So that can be tough, at least for lacrosse. But yeah, I mean, it's such like a full picture thing, you know. Sometimes I wish we had the ability just to look at some times or look at, you know, a rating, but it's also kind of makes it fun at the same time.
Baseball's kind of a mixture of objective and subjective assessments. There's a lot of data in baseball. We're constantly looking at different metrics to try to assess someone's athletic ability, whether it's, you know, running times, exit velocities, throwing velocities, a number of other things. That gives us a general picture of how athletic someone is relative to their peer group, relative to the kinds of student athletes who've been successful in our program before. And then from there, we have to really just start making some subjective assessments, you know, looking at how someone moves. Do we feel like there's room for growth and potential to get even better in the future? Our program is very focused on player development. And so like, we need to know that we have confidence that, number one, somebody has the ability to improve over the next couple of years. But secondly, that we feel like, you know, we know how to help get them better and how to help get them find out how good they can be. So it's a mixture of both. But honestly, I think from a recruiting perspective, figuring out which athletes are really good and the ones that you would love to have in your program is probably the easiest part of the entire process. I think especially when you're dealing with, you know, highly selective institutions, there are a number of other factors that come into play. And also just philosophically, you know, I truly believe that this entire process is about the student athlete and not about these programs. So in the end, it comes down to personal preference and, you know, the range of factors that are going to be important to an individual. And everybody's journey through this process can be a little bit different.
Okay, great. So we kind of touched upon this in the last kind of discussion about those non-athletic factors and how it might impact recruitment. So we use the term holistic admissions all the time. You hear it, whether it's a small liberal arts college or a big state school, everyone kind of tries to use that term and to describe the process itself. So I was wondering for those non-athletic factors, so like character, academic strength, the ability to contribute to campus in a multitude of ways, right? How does that kind of interact with the overall process for you when you're talking to a recruit and their family? Does it start from the initial conversation? Does it really show itself when they visit campus, they interact with the current members on the team? How does that kind of figure into the overall kind of analysis of the potential recruit to be a part of your respective programs?
It's incredibly important. You know, we're part of a smaller liberal arts college, you know, with 1,400 students there. So sense of community is really important. So it's going to be important to the college in general, but also we take a lot of pride in the culture that we create and the environment that we create for our student athletes. And we want to make sure that we're bringing the right people into our process as much as the right players. And I think one of the more challenging parts of the process for us is that we have very few touch points with recruits throughout this process. You know, I wish we really were able to dig a little deeper, get to know them extremely well, but we need to try to make the most of the opportunities that we have. And just a student athlete's ability to communicate what we can glean about their personality and their passions from conversations that we've had, how they interact with their families and their teammates. All of those things are going to be really important. And, you know, if we can sense some sort of match with the personality traits that fit well with our program, you know, that's going to be really important to us.
For me, I know it's maybe a weird metric, but I actually pay attention to how much they smile. I guess not necessarily while they're actually competing. Not many people are, so you can't see their face, mostly swimmers and tennis players.
It's tough doing it when you're turning your head side to side, right? Too.
Yeah, right. So I think I just got off a call right before this, and the recruiter I was talking to was laughing quite a bit, you know, not that I'm funny, but that she thought the conversation was entertaining. I want to make sure that I can say every year that everybody on our team's worth getting to know, no matter what kind of views they may have on anything. They're a good person, and they have a good attitude, and they're worth getting to know. And so I really overly pay attention to smiling. I think it makes practices a place even subconsciously that I want my athletes to want to go to every day, and smiles seem to bring that. So a little skewed towards the smile and towards laughter, but it's as good a metric as all the other things that I include.
John, I really like that. The smile factor, I may have to work into my recruiting process here. That's terrific. Yeah, it is. Personality, character are just so important. And I know Dave and Amanda mentioned it too. We're in the people business. We want really good people in our teams. And that really makes for a terrific atmosphere. You want a great atmosphere in your program. You want people to enjoy their sport, love their sport. If they don't love it and love their teammates, they shouldn't be out there, shouldn't be a part of it. They should do something else. So we really want people who are just, they're just have this zeal for just wanting to be part of a team and wanting to get to know people, have great friends, great teammates, and friends for life. That's why I talk to my team a lot about. These friends are going to be your friends for life, and that's really important. So, the character of the team is made up of a lot of different characters, and they all need to be positive, good people who just really want to support each other and help each other. So it's something that really needs to be paid attention to. And it is tough, in these few months that we're recruiting them. How well do you really get to know someone? You're making a lot of guesses and assumptions, and you can kind of tell if it's a good person or not. And I do like the smile factor thing. I think that's great. But there have been times that I've been wrong. I remember early in my career, I had a guy in my office who, for some reason, his visit, we just didn't connect. And there was just something in my mind was saying, boy, I don't think he'd really be a good fit with our team. I just don't. I was questioning his personality and his character. And, so I didn't go to bat for him at admissions. Wouldn't you know it, he got accepted and he ended up being on our team. And then also, wouldn't you know it, he ended up being the kid who I probably loved the most by his senior year, ended up being a captain and one of my favorite all-time people ever. So, we're making a lot of judgments and assumptions here in the few months that we have. Hopefully, I would say 99% of the times we're pretty correct and we can judge good character. But we're learning about these people probably through the whole 4 years. We're learning about how good they are and what their personalities are like. And you're just loving them more and more as you get to know them. And by senior year, you hate to see them graduate, because you've got to know them so well, and then you hate to lose them. They're just great people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. I think just to kind of build on that a little bit and add in, like, obviously you're trying to get a read and just get to know someone, and a lot of times their nerves can really take over too, through that process, and just kind of having empathy toward that. But, obviously from an academic standpoint, even a financial standpoint, like, all those things are really important, and an important kind of check off of, is this going to be a good fit? And just making sure those conversations are happening sooner than later, because the worst thing is to get so far down that line that then you find that kind of roadblock that's really going to stop that person from being able to come and join your program. On either side of that, I think is really important to get a handle on, kind of beyond the on-field play. Like, there's so many parts of it that really play into that decision, one being even able to be offered, and two, for them to be able to make that decision and that choice. And so, yeah, it's a big, long process. It's kind of happening all year in one way or another. And there's a lot that goes into it.
I just want to follow up on a couple. I do use my athletes. What their opinion is of all the heads nodded. I knew it was going to be that. We all just as soon as the recruit leaves campus, the first thing I do is go right to the people that spent the most time with him or her, and to figure out, what kind of person it is. And I think sometimes I am guilty once in a while. I think now that I've been doing this a long time, I fought my savior complex, when you have this super stud that isn't quite the attitude that you think is going to fit, but you figure you can save them. Some you can, some you can't. And so I try to avoid thinking that our program and it'll change this person. Well, a lot of times that doesn't work. So.
And would that be more top down, like through your captains, or is it the entire roster that was able to visit with that recruit? They have that kind of that town hall style meeting.
It's funny you say that, because especially overnights, every single person on my team has to meet the recruit.
Okay.
We have 3 different practice options because we have such a big team. And so I always ask, they know I'm going to be asking, so they want to get around, and whether they're staying in their dorm or, I mean, lunches are just, it's probably a little bit overwhelming for the recruit because there's like 30 people there sitting around the recruit and just trying to ask questions and you try to get a feel for them. So tennis, it's easier. There's only like 18 of those. So.
Okay, I guess before we wrap things up, I have one kind of final question for y'all. Thinking about students engaging with you, like in communication, right? So you always hear like a do and a don't. Like, what's the best kind of approach, like timing? So if you can kind of share with me one do and one don't of how recruits should engage with you as well, and I guess and your assistants as well, whoever kind of goes through that recruitment process with the student athlete.
Well, here's one very important thing, and this is proofreading. Don't write a letter, don't write an email and say, Coach Beatty, I'm really interested in Denison University. And well, you think about how you should really reply to that. Should you try to have them learn a little bit of a lesson, or just let them know, or let it go? And but they really should proofread and make sure they have the name of the school lined up with the coach that they're emailing to, and not have the wrong school name in there.
Yeah.
I would say one of the ways we get to know the personalities of our recruits is through the levels of communication. So do be very organized and proactive and responsive when you're returning, messages to the coaches. I think that just shows a level of engagement, a level of responsibility and maturity. And that's definitely something that I appreciate. And I would say, don't talk about other coaches or other athletes, during visits, during conversations. I'm never going to speak about another school or another program. This is about our institution and you. That's the relationship we're talking about right now. So it is a turnoff for me if I hear somebody bad mouthing either their high school coach or a teammate or an experience that they had at a different college. That's not what this should be about.
I don't know. I guess I think just, being open to interacting. I kind of have a little bit of mercy for a busy high school senior. And so I try not to, if all of a sudden I get a response to an email I sent 3 weeks ago, I get it, especially right now in Minnesota, at least, high school swimming and high school tennis are going on. I just think that we can smell a form letter. I think, I've gotten a letter. Send this to the coach from the mom, and then the email. She forgot to take that part out of the email, and but just be genuine. You don't have to write a lot. Just keep me updated on anything cool that you did. Hey, I went a season best last week, because I try to give them plenty of opportunities to respond to me. I know I don't expect it all the time. And people surprise me with very little response, and then all of a sudden their application's in, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool. But I think just being genuine and authentic, and I think you're going to learn a lot more about the school and about the individual program when you're like that.
Yeah, I think something, and you said be organized earlier, Dave, but along with that, I think just having those list of questions that are important that you know you're going to want to ask everybody. I love it when someone's like, when I'm, say, what questions do you have? And they like, oh, I have a list. Like, great, perfect. Because the last thing you want is someone just like, I don't know. And
That's
then
great.
it's, because then are you really interested in Denison, or did mom and dad make you come here and now we're all just miserable in this moment? And then the don't, I would say, is, I don't know, don't be afraid to be honest. I think that's really important. Like, just like we need to be honest with the recruits as far as where they stand, and that helps inform their process. The same is true back for us. Like, we hear no all the time, and that's okay, but it's a hard thing for us to have to say, let alone for a 16-year-old to have to try to communicate. But if the question is being asked, where do we stand, or where do you stand with us? Are you still interested? Just be honest. Just kind of let everyone know where we're at with everything. And I think that's just really important, and just a respectful way to kind of go about that as best we can.
And Matt, if I can add one more do that I think
Yeah.
is pretty important, do communicate yourself. Don't pass it off to parents, don't pass it off to your coach, don't pass it off to anybody else. I mean, again, this is an opportunity for us to get to know you. We want to get a sense of who you are, how you communicate. We want to know what questions you have, what you need from us. And I feel like sometimes communication can get muddled if a coach is stepping in and trying to just mediate conversation.
Okay, great. So I hope this conversation kind of demonstrates the truly holistic nature of being a student athlete at a Division III, and how in high academic schools, right? It's not just athletics, it's a combination of athletics, academics, character, multifaceted contributors to the community. So thank you all for taking the time to kind of share with me and the audience out in the web your experiences, the recruitment timelines, how best to engage with coaches as a recruit, and just helping us kind of shed some light on a process that's slowly kind of getting more and more complex as each year goes on, whether it's the application itself or athletic recruitment timelines as a whole. So on behalf of Arant College Planning, thank you for joining us this evening, and have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Matt. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Be well.
I promise I'll have a cooler background like the rest of you next time.